Hey, what's going on, you guys? Rueben from Mr. Naturalz Salon here. We are doing some lock extensions today. You guys already know. Thanks for tuning in to the Mr. Naturalz channel. We're doing some 0.4s here today. So with some a smaller size of medium, about 8 inches today, that we're gonna be attaching to my brother here. And let's jump into it. First, always the parting. You want to make sure that parting is fire. What we did is just chop it into 4 sections here. I have my 2 frontals. This is just to make sure that when he has his hair design moving forward, that everything is linear and goes kind of straight back away from his face. The next here is kind of that football shape. This is just gonna allow me to tackle this specific area because the head is never the circumference of a square or a circle, so we just want to make sure that everything lines up pretty efficiently. Next, we have our initial starting layer here, which we're going to start off with doing some brick lay pattern and a square shape. So let's jump in. Now, a really easy way to tell if your partings are straight or if they're off is to make just a couple of pre-parts just to see the diameter. Make sure that the width is the same as you part through the rest of the head. This will just make sure that all your partings are the exact same. Now, sometimes when you're working at the back of the head here, you might have to pinch the corners just a little bit just to make them slightly smaller. Usually what I wind up doing is making them just slightly bigger, just to account for all the tension that's gonna be applied moving forward for like styling, things like that. Usually the frontal hairline is the most manipulated, the most taken care of. That's what people see the most, so that's what they want to touch the most. So it's really important that you tackle that, making them slightly larger so that they're going to be more stable moving forward, okay? So now that I've checked my partings, made sure those are all good, I'm going to go ahead and pre-part his sections, and we'll clip those off. Something that's highly important when looking at attaching lock extensions to different curl patterns, different densities, is you always want to attach to a section that will match up on its own to the lock extension. So what I mean by that is whatever the size of the lock extension is, you want to make sure that if we naturally bonded his hair, that it's going to match up to the same, so that the connection is going to be seamless. So always keep that in mind. Doing all right, brother? Perfect. So there we have it. We have our first layer, all the same size and length and width. Now let's jump in. So next, what we're gonna do, because he has a little bit of length here, we're gonna just go ahead and do a little bit of insta-locking through the mid-level of the hair itself. Usually I do this on 3 inches or longer, just to establish where the lock extension is gonna attach to. So this will also help just keep your parting separated as well. So we're gonna jump into that. So we're just gonna take clip by clip, go ahead and remove that and go in and just insta lock there, midway. Now I still wanna be able to, twist the base of the lock, so I'm not getting too close to that. I want that to stay just a little loose so that when we do maintenances and styles, that he still has some room to move. If I insta-lock directly at the base, then it's gonna create a little bit of tension and lifts, and that's where you see when it stands up, when the lock itself stands up, and we don't want that. We want it to be able to lay flat or to go into styles relatively easy. Now we're about to attach our first extension. Here, I'm just gonna fray the end just a little bit. This is just gonna give me a little bit more movement throughout the style with attaching. Next, I'm gonna separate this into about 1/3. And this is where I'm going to slightly braid on. So I'm gonna take about half of the end of the lock here, just split that in 2. I'm gonna attach that 1/3 here to that half by just braiding it onto the lock. Right at the separation points. So you see, I still have that half of his hair and then that 2/3 of the other hair. So I'm just braiding onto the lock here. This is gonna make sure that the lock stays stable throughout the insta-locking process and moving forward as he starts to bond and mature. So now I'm just wrapping that around, and I'm gonna position the other half of his hair kind of around that inception area, and then the 2/3 I'm gonna kind of wrap around into where his hair is located. Then I'm gonna grab my number 2, and I'm gonna start at the top and start insta-locking that area down. This is gonna insta-lock the extension hair into his own hair, where we've started already to bond with the number 3 that we used initially. We want to make sure that's nice and taut. Once we get done with that number 2, we're going to go in and just clean everything up with this number 1 and just make it more seamless. As you can see right here, it's just slightly fuller in this area in here. So we're going to use this number 1, kind of pull some of these little loose hairs out. And move them in the direction we need them to go into, so that the lock look seamless and they've been here forever. I'm gonna maneuver this up just a little bit. Number ones are going to make the lock more tighter than any other number, just because they have more flexibility to move all the way throughout the lock, versus the number 2 and number 3 that are not able to as well because they have more prongs associated. Perfect, and there we have it. His first lock extension. Bye.